Hey, welcome to this episode of Hollywood Breaks. It's good to be with you today. Today we welcome back Tim Heindl. Obviously have a great conversation. His smiley face is always welcome on our show. Today we talk about really the opportunity of a filmmaker to appeal to an audience, create some fandom, and the importance of reaching out to specific groups, where we recognize that in the Oscars and what's happening in the theater. So Tim Heindl is our guest, and welcome to this episode of Hollywood Breaks. So, guys, the Oscars nominations.
Yes. Who's going first? You want me to go first, Tim?
Wait, I have to think of a better segue for that. But as Tim was saying, it's all about the money. My mind just triggered to, I mean, it's only a couple of days old, so it's appropriate for us to talk about that. But let's talk about these nominations that came out in the context of the medium. So, because some of these films are straight to Netflix or whatever. There's nothing hiding that. So does that make a film? That was Spielberg's argument 2.5 years ago.
Right.
Or, you know, like what? Yeah. Well, yeah. Go first, Keith.
That's a great way to start.
Have so many shots brewing. I'll take
the buzz on this one. I will say this. I tend to fall. So the entertainment strategy guy, who's a guy I follow, he's really smart and has all these really cool charts and data. He did sort of a piece right after the nominations came out and said, listen, is it great? No. But is it better than last year? Yes. And yes. What I mean by that is the people that have actually seen, like Don't Look Up is one of the most watched movies on Netflix, and it got nominated for Best Picture. Power of the Dog is also a fairly well-watched movie on Netflix. It also got nominated. Dune did fairly well in theaters for Warner Media and also on HBO Max. So there are at least titles in there that are people are seeing. So it's not necessarily completely lost like it was last year, where all the movies that were nominated, nobody had seen. Now, are they broad titles with the exception of maybe Don't Look Up? No. I mean, Power of the Dog, if I were to go to the grocery store today down the street and say, hey, Power of the Dog, great movie, they'd be like, what? Like the most people don't.
Oscars has sometimes that thing is like you don't know about Shakespeare in Love until it's nominated or something like that. Like you know what I mean. There are things. What's the one of like two people in a car or whatever that title is? Like where did that come from? It's like.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. I love it.
I don't even, but where did it, who saw it to nominate it? I don't even know where that one came from that like,
well, it's a screener. It's like you log on. I mean, what's hilarious is you can literally watch all the Oscar nominees on your computer now. You don't have to go to a theater because they have, now the Academy has like a screening room on your computer. So you actually don't have to go to a theater to see a movie anymore.
Right.
But you know, the Academy actually wants you to watch it on your computer. That's a whole separate episode right there. But I think in reality it's better, but it's still not great, because it would have been great had Spider-Man been nominated, because clearly that's one of the first movies in the last 3 years that critics loved, the audience obviously loved. It got me off my ass back into the theater after 2.5 years. So I mean, where was that? And there's still this sense of like, we can't nominate a comic book movie. It's just no, that doesn't feel right. It has to be Power of the Dog, which is about poisoning a cowboy. Woo! You know, it's like, you know.
Oh, I got a funny story about that. I went back to Wisconsin for the holidays and watched it with my parents. I said, "Well, you're gonna," and got all the way through it. I thought they were really engaged. Got to the end, and my dad, God love him, goes, "Huh? Where's the dog? I don't get it."
Exactly.
That encapsulated, you know, and this is in Freedom, Wisconsin, you know, population 5,000. Delightful.
But I think Denny Villeneuve, whatever his name is, not getting a director, like it's atrocious.
Interesting.
Especially like Spielberg gets nominated for director with that film, and then we have, I mean, he has every other category has a nominee. What do you think the director does? Like, how do you have every category nominated except for the one that the visionary person?
But I do think this is another step in the sea change of our industry, that there are streamers streaming titles in play for the most prestigious film awards is fascinating and remarkable, and I think is a boon for the industry, because it means that while there's always there's a sanctity around the church, right? That is the theater.
Right.
That storytelling can be transcendent, right? And good storytelling will always have a place.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I think some of what we should be
wheels turning.
No, I was saying some of what we should be.
He knows me too well.
I've
sat in his office too many years for him to know when my wheels are like.
By the way, that jumper poster is gorgeous.
You like that?
God, that was
just
fun.
For you.
That was a fun movie.
It was.
Fun movie.
That was a fun movie. Yeah.
Wait, did you guys work on jumpers together? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. It
was one of our first movies together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were at Fox.
I feel like there's a segue here because I want to ask you guys about the this Netflix trailer too. But we were halfway through an Oscar conversation. Are we done with the Oscars? Because I have a question about this.
Boy, did I like Nightmare Alley though. Boy, I love me.
Yeah, I do want to see that. I will say I saw materials and I really like Guillermo, with the exception, I wasn't big on the fish one. But
the one you won the Oscar for?
The one I won
exactly.
the Oscar for. But I love Hellboy. I thought Hellboy was great, and I think he's a real. The Pan's Labyrinth was absolutely visually stunning and a great movie. So I saw the trailers for that, and watching Bradley Cooper and Kate Blanchett eat scenery is always fun to watch.
And the thing that I so cherish about him is the depth of detail that he puts into the world.
Oh yes,
Bradley Cooper's clothes, like Kate's clothes, her office. Yeah, my God, it's like a masterpiece of Art Deco architecture, and there's like layers of like symbolism baked into like everything's behind a closed door in her office, right? The wood grain on her wall looks like a Rorschach. It's yummy.
Isn't he?
There's a viral clip right there. Yummy. That's what gets it every time.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent coming to theaters on April 22nd.
Nice. Are we going to want to come back and talk about how awesome that movie is once we all see it?
Oh, we have to. That was like, I was teasing it last time. That was,
you were, and you had our most viral tweet from that.
So funny. It is so funny.
No, we get this private screener for this one, right? Don't we get
Yeah,
wink. Right. You want to fly to Santa Monica? He'll set up a press screening for us.
Exactly.
There you go.
I'll go to Santa Monica and get a press screening.
One quick story about Guillermo del Toro, which is another reason why I like him. Then we can talk about Netflix, the Netflix trailer.
Yeah. Go.
One of my quotes vendors, he went over there once to look at a trailer. He walks in, totally unassuming guy, and just and was like nice to everybody. Like when you're that much of a genius and able to put together a world like that and still be a decent human being, more power to you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, I think there's a genius that he has in where he approaches films for what films are worth, right? So he recognizes, this is a large format venue. There's a lot of opportunities. I could take my time to set up the art direction, the scene decoration. He's not pumping out Star Trek garbage on an episode by episode basis, on a week by week basis. Like he's able to like build up a whole world around it. And I think he's recognized that, and he's done that from such an early time in making films to now. Like he's just getting more and more perfecting the science more and more of like what it means to make a film that way. I think that's what we all love about his films. It's
you're
awesome.
Immersed. I mean, we could do a whole like conversation about the state of fandom and world building and immersion. I think because that to me is where it's where I try to bring my focus, right, in thinking about how we, what feedback I want to give in terms of the projects we develop, right, and how we're thinking holistically about IPs with a theatrical or streaming output as one branch of a tree, right, of the IP. It can have a live event associated with it. It can have a like fan celebration connected to it. That's really where the gravy is, I think.
Okay, so my favorite pick in Oscars, you guys shared yours, is the Andrew Garfield with Tick Tick Boom. I thought that was such a great.
Really?
I thought it was fun.
Interesting.
And his character, he did I never knew Andrew Garfield was that talented. He had so many different aspects. He had to sing, he had to play this crazy man. He did this kind of wonderful heartfelt moments. It was awesome. I thought he, as an actor, it was a great moment to see him in all of his like ability. So I'm pretty sure Benedict Cumberbatch is going to win. It just feels like the momentum's going that way. But
I don't know. I think Will Smith might get it. He's going to be the.
Oh, you think so?
The underdog. Yeah, I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm glad someone recognized Andrew Garfield because that was. Yeah. I thought he did a great job in Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah.
What about you, Keith? What's your pick?
I haven't seen them all yet, so I can't weigh in officially. I really liked Dune.
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised by that movie. I thought it was going to be a loaded mess, and I was like, wow, I'm actually really enjoying it.
Talk about like the complexity of that story and
yes. And like, because I had heard about the David Lynch version and how batshit crazy it was and confusing, and I was like, ugh. And the original book is rather confusing, but man, the way he told that story and the visuals and the acting, I mean, it was just like, and I talked a little bit about this last week, but Power of the Dog, the thing that I loved about that was how cinematic it was.
I know.
And you're sitting there and you're like, I feel like the experience would have been a little better in a theater because just the shots. And then there's moments when like Benedict Cumberbatch's character is upstairs and Kirsten Dunst's character's downstairs, and it's just creepy. Like the way the house is like creaking and he's making noise. It's just, imagine that in a theater versus me sitting here in my, my bedroom watching it on a TV. Like, but I enjoyed sort of the way, she's a phenomenal storyteller. She always has been, but I thought that was decent. I haven't seen the other one, so I still have to kind of knock through those before I really, but I like I said, I thought Dune was great. So we'll have to see how, once I see the rest, what my true vote is. Tim, you're going to have to wait. Sorry.
You might get your wish on the theatrical release on that too. Why not take advantage of the next,
well, Netflix doesn't believe in theaters. They do the mandatory 2 weeks so they can get the nomination and they pull it.
But theaters could request it, right? If I had a theater,
what I'm saying is Netflix doesn't want to get that in my. No, Netflix is like, no. You want to see it? F you, pay me. Like, sign up on the platform. That's the only way you're going to see it.
Before I go down too much of a rabbit hole with the Netflix, I'm going to say something nice about Netflix because Keith, you covered this in your newsletter this week. But that trailer was awesome.
Yes,
their promotion.
I know.
When the first one came up and they literally had, I think it was Chris Hemsworth. He was the first one to go, and he looks at in character in the scene and says something. I'm like, whoa.
And I kept thinking like that. They did like 3 of these, right? They didn't just do.
And then they did Ryan Gosling on top of a bus in the middle of an action sequence, and I'm like, oh my god, it doesn't stop.
Yeah. That's second.
And was it Jamie Foxx when he was driving and he turned there or whatever?
It was unbelievably impressive. And as I said this week in my newsletter, I was like, more power to the crews and the marketing and the publicity. And because having done so many of those reels in my career, to pull that off takes immense amount of everyone, trains running on time, everyone pointing in the same direction. And to do it multiple times on multiple films is phenomenal.
So pretty much, Tim, we're saying you're screwed because we are expecting big things out of you from now on. But come on, if Netflix can do it, we want to see you. What are you going to do?
Well, it definitely. I'll tell you, it came up in our. It came up it was on the tip of everyone's tongue right as soon as that came out, and everyone was thinking already, man, what do we have in production, and how can we?
We can do that.
Yeah, right.
But see, this is what kind of irritates me. It's like that was always sort of just a little. That's always been a possibility. Like even when I was at Fox, it was always like, why can't we just do something when they're on set? Like it always bugged me endlessly that when we would start working on the marketing, it was 5 months after the movie had shot, everyone gone on to other projects, and then I have to scramble, try to get them all back on set, or try to get them in a room so we can do ADR or something. Why can't, to me, that was fairly obvious 5-6 years ago. And now it's like it takes Netflix, which obviously because they have a very sort of decentralized structure, it's just kind of like, you want to do something, you can go do it. You know, but if it fails, your ass is on the street. So it's like, I mean, I don't know. It just feels like that was obvious. So my thing is, instead of the conversation being, what do we have in production that we can mimic that? Why not? What do we have in production where we can beat that? Do something better than that. Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, Tim. Why can't you?
It's all Tim's fault. He's in research. He knows.
First of all, Keith, I think you're missing out on the opportunity to take
this profound impact on production. We do actually. We play. We have
anyway.
We're really. I'm blessed to be. You know, it's Lionsgate is really cool in the sense that there is an authentic appetite to incorporate data into every facet of decision making. That is, in my experience, a novelty, right? Like it was. You remember, man. You know Tom.
Oh yeah,
very well.
And,
you know, I'd done 2 tours of duty with him, and you understand. It's different. It's just different here. It's different here, and I think it's to our benefit because it's helping keep us kind of nimble, and helping us zig where others zag, right? Because it's and it makes the job that much more fun and challenging for us.
It's interesting because we're having Kevin Getz on next week
Awesome.
to talk about his book.
Yeah,
and his book is very much I would say the central thesis is know thy audience, and that's sort of his big thing. It's like listen to your audience, listen to the data. Don't do what you think just needs to be done. The data can tell you clues that can sort of help you make a better film. And
I have so many examples that I won't name names of filmmakers who didn't want to listen to what the audience was telling them, you know. And that's what Kevin's book really does a nice job of shining a light on kind of a relatively unknown facet of the process, the research screening, and how like critical. It's my favorite part of the job by a mile. Those first screenings when there's this the vulnerability of the creator is sort of there on display, and the you know, it takes someone with a very deft touch to handle the intensity of the emotions in that moment and provide a framework for the information to seep in to the process. Right. And you can, you can turn a blind eye to that. You can say, no, I know I have my vision, and I almost
but isn't there something when you ask a general audience? We'll go back to the conversation we're having about like what's a win, because there are some times that the studio understands what the film is and how it's going to play out. So you guys understand what a win looks like. The filmmaker knows what they're looking for, and then you ask a general audience, and they're comparing it to Marvel movies or whatever. You can kind of get skewed. You're like, I appreciate the feedback, but you know, my category of what this film is going to be as a win is not in the category that the general audience, a testing audience, is going to understand. Don't you have a right and an ability, and sometimes even a need, to say like, I'm not going to listen to the test audience. I'm going to.
Oh, sure. You have to take it with a grain of salt. Totally. Have to take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But those audiences are pretty crafted, right? So it's not for the research screenings. You're either using, in some cases, if you have AV content, you can use that as part of the recruit. We know we have a great deal of specificity around who we want to have in that theater in terms of all, you know, demographics, psychographics, the location we go to, the recruit paragraph we use to get people in. So it's not necessarily a true, and then it's also people who are willing to come out on a weeknight, on a school night in most cases.
Yeah, right.
And wait in line to go through security to get in. So they're already a type of consumer, right? That isn't necessarily reflective of the entirety of the movie-going population, but a very good representation. Very good representation. Did I answer your question? I feel like it was
I think it is, because I'm always curious, like how much we're trying to make every film a blockbuster. Like, are we, you know, is that a necessity? So even you know, the conversation we were having about Moonfall is this idea of like, was it supposed to be a blockbuster? Do we understand it as supposed to compete with Marvel, or is Moonfall what Moonfall is, and you guys are recognize that and made the film for that reason? So, you know, when I'm sitting around my you know, with my pack of friends talking about films, are we all just judging it based off of the lowest common denominator, or can we recognize and peel off layers of what it means to be in this industry and make it complicated? And that's what I almost feel like the evolution that's taking place in the industry right now allows for that even more, because OTT platforms, the way we consume things, clearly the theaters are not going to draw major audiences back to them, you know, all the time for every single film. So we don't have to compete for that. There can be secondary films for different reasons that can be recognized as successes without it being gigantic box office numbers at the, you know, in the opening weekend. That's what's exciting to me about this evolution of the industry, getting rid of this blockbuster scorecard that just, you know, it's been around since in the late 70s, and it only has meant one thing. Maybe even you know, what the Oscars are telling us is like, no, we want to see movies for the opportunity of what movies can be made for, instead of all of them being, you know, Spider-Man movies. Even though
and that tension's been around, as you said, for decades, right? And it was certainly exacerbated and accelerated, as many things were during the pandemic. I think now, though, as we're we're reviving the patient a little bit. These tent poles are kind of like defibrillator paddles, right? They're shocks. The Spider-Man did, I think. I got you, Keith. Bro,
finally,
avid moviegoer back. Off your ass. Batman's gonna do that. Batman's gonna haul ass, man. That movie looks big.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge.
Gonna make a ton of money.
Even though it's 3 hours, almost 3 hours.
3 hours. Wow. Yeah.
Yes. So make sure you go to the bathroom before it starts. You don't want to miss it. Anyway,
that's what I felt. The James Bond movie, which was
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die. That drove me there, and I watched it large format.
Gorgeous.
Oh, it was just, you know, awesome. And we were in Kansas City, so we weren't on one of the coasts where the theaters were shut down. So
which theater to go to? We go to Kansas City all the time for screenings and for focus groups. It's an awesome representation.
It's a really good question. I'm probably going to say an AMC theater, but that's about all I really know. I was in near Overland Park.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if there's a large format theater in Overland Park, that's probably the one I went to. It was a complex. I don't know, man.
There you go.
Listen to Tim. So which one was it?
Which one? We love it.
When you were there, was it the theater on the left?
There's a popcorn barbecue place that's around the corner from.
Was it 7?
We always go with the filmmakers. It's awesome. Especially when we have good numbers.
After doing this long enough, it plays a little bit of a role. You're thinking about where can I get dinner, right? This place is killer barbecue. I want to be near there.
Totally.
I always had like a place, and every time we had a screening in Thousand Oaks, that I would always go for dinner right before the screening.
Yeah,
it was like my spot. I was like, I'm gonna go there. Sweet, I get to go. I know exactly where I can eat dinner.
By the way,
and that theater's off is a dine-in now, so we don't even go there anymore. Such a go-to.
Oh, that was such a good theater.
I know.
It's a nice one too. Damn, that's a shame.
By the way, there's this theater in Newport Beach called The Lot, and they serve you dinner in. Like, you basically order in your seat and they bring you a meal, and the meal is really good. I mean, like, this dinner and a movie thing is come to a great extreme in certain areas. I'm loving it.
Very much so. I love that too. And it's all about the experience, it's about enhancing the experience.
All right. So, DataMan, Tim, the guy that has to kind of like figure out all this stuff for everybody.
DataMan, I like that.
DataMan. Mega Man meets DataMan.
Well, I always feel like Keith and I are going off of instinct or impulse or I don't know, opinion. But you're kind of like, you're in the know of the know. Like you're helping the studio make judgment calls on, is this viable? Where is this going to go? And what's going to happen next or whatever. You don't have to tell us any movies that you're making or considering, but if you wanted to, that'd be cool. We can do this from breakthroughs. What trends are coming that you're saying we're going to make a bet if the film is more like this and less like that?
I think and I said this before, and what we keep harping on is like, it is know thy audience, right? You said it, Keith. And it's within knowing thy audience, it's knowing it's finding those kind of like fandom, it's nurturing fandom opportunities within that audience. Because it's still like in a world where everything is about dividing us and about creating antagonistic, like we were joking when it came on, like you guys should argue with each other because that would give you better ratings if you start screaming at each other about like random shit and fight, right? There's this like antagonistic energy in society. And what are the things that bring us together? It's our collective, our shared fanship. It's our shared love of an IP that is transcendent of my political beliefs, any aspect of my identity. It's a tie that binds, and I think the finding and nurturing those is a critical lens to apply to all of our projects, because you have to have that, the nucleus of the core. Like this, it's been one of my like phrases lately. We have a core audience, but then the nucleus of that core audience is really where is the heartbeat, and you have to know them, and you have to reach them and engage them and feed them. And then as they radiate out, that's when you find those secondary audiences outside of that core that then turns your movie into, a success or brings.
So you're asking that question. So when you're looking at films and trying to understand how it's going to play out, you're asking the question, well, who is this supposed to appeal to? Let's create a metrics that we understand that will look like, and then we'll understand the win and what the win will look like.
And then also it's facets of the film itself, because we're talking about Guillermo del Toro, and he's a master of world building, and he's using the intricacies of the detail, right, and the texture and the fabrics and the like the nuances of the world is a critical part of the invitation that we're attempting to create to bring people into something. People really, I think, more than ever need to immerse themselves and forget about what else is going on and find some solace in that, in the immersive capacity of entertainment. Take their mind off the shit that's going on in the world, because it feels like we got 1 year left and everything's going to go sideways, right?
Yeah, the end of the world.
What's going on, man? Good Lord.
Yeah, so the escape clause part of it, of the promise, is like, I can help you get out of your mind a little bit. And
it's more of an advanced understanding of, like, Keith remembers, like, back in the good old days, we could get 20 million we got $20 million openings on a lot of turds, right? A lot
of
turd
polishing, baby.
You could fool people a lot easier, right? Well, it was good advertising, really effective advertising, but I think that's it's much harder to do that now. We have a far savvier consumer base who is being inundated with such remarkably high quality product on television, like that Ridley Scott movie Raised by Wolves movie series on Apple TV Plus. You been watching that?
No, I haven't watched it. No.
So good. It's so hit. So like,
well, Yellowstone, I've been watching Yellowstone, and that's like, that is a cinematic experience every episode.
Yes. Yeah. Foundation was remarkable. On TV Plus. Yeah. There's really, I feel like I'm hyping them. I'm also a lot of
where are you trying to tell us something here?
There was a new episode last night. But talk about an interesting, like another interesting example, Peacemaker on HBO Max as an extension of the Suicide Squad. Like taking an element of that world that was so successful and then allowing fans to explore another dimension of it outside of that particular frame. It's just remarkable. Boba Fett, my God, is that good? Was that good?
Yeah. Yes.
Holy moly. Like, it's fan service. It's just like, they did such a fabulous job.
Well, I'm just gonna, I know we have to wrap up here because you got to go, but I have one question. So I understand what you're talking about, world building. I think it's really cool. And I think doing that is definitely a way to continue to get engaging with audiences. But then to sort of flip it with like Moonfall, to talk about Roland Emmerich, he came out I think it was this week, Den of Geek, and he said, there's just too many Star Wars and Marvel movies and no original content could get through anymore. So based on what you're telling me, like, that's the future. So is the original content going to struggle even more now because it has to be like sort of in this world building era,
or IP, right? And what's pre-awareness titles. It's certainly a challenge. We haven't, we'll see. I don't know if I've seen an example of like something really blowing up an original IP theatrically yet, coming out of COVID. So that is a shh. Oh, my dogs are barking. Hey, Mickey, Leo. Hey.
Great names.
Michelangelo and Leonardo.
Come on.
Nice. Love it. I was like, is this a baseball thing? No. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Classics. They're classics.
Yep.
Guys.
After the
Guys,
Turtles,
guys.
obviously. That's
He's allowed to be there. He's allowed to be there. They're guardians of the neighborhood. It was Ninja Turtles. That's what they were named after.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Where's Donatello, man?
Nice.
I'm sorry. I just totally lost my train. Where was I going?
No.
Oh, the original IPs. Original IPs. Well, it's we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But like the I think the Oscars this year, the films nominated certainly represent a nice blend of existing IP, rejuvenated IP, and original content.
That's true.
It's coming. Fits and starts. It's coming, but it won't look the same. But it's I don't think it's as dire as some may portend.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate the filmmakers who are, as you said earlier, understand the story and recognize the opportunity to tell a story. And some of this world building that we know of today really just started with simple stories, and then recognize there's an opportunity to peel something off. Some of what I'm recognizing too is that people are taking the opportunity to tell a story and then pulling off Boba Fett as a character or the setting to tell a similar story, which is a brilliant move.
We're doing it
with
with
the opportunity to present itself. Why not? Like you have the fandom built in and a messaging behind it. I always say you start with the why, then you understand who, and finally understand where. Yeah. So once you have that definition of why somebody should come to the thing, and then who we're appealing to or who this film's about, is a really important part of it. Yeah, sounds like you guys.
It doesn't negate like it doesn't negate the importance of original IP, and I don't think the appetite for original IP, but I think it just is a reframing of how we think about those kinds of stories. Right. I also want to get in that we are Lionsgate is we're doing a lot of work around the Wick franchise in the Wick universe. We've announced Ballerina is another feature that's coming out related to the universe. There's a Continental TV series that's about the hotel that's coming to Stars. So it's like we're taking a really aggressive look at our extensive library and trying to find ways to maximize those opportunities. I mean, I think I talked about it last time we were on. We have Dirty Dancing film coming out it's not dated yet, but it's near production. And the initial research we did on that just revealed, as you can imagine, a feverish fan base.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
And so you have to, and then part of the research is what are the critical touch points in fans' relationship with the IP? How do we accentuate those? How do we avoid like potential landmines that could, upset that core fan base? And then we go from there and we're off to the races.
That's pretty brilliant. I love that kind of thinking, because the studios are up for it and the theaters are recognizing the opportunity, and even the Academy, as we're seeing with the awards, are asking different questions. Then we know this evolution's taken place. Let's get the right people in there to advance this kind of new method or this new agenda to make it work.
And then another, and I'm blanking on what the title is, but something I've been wondering too is why, like, I would pay to see Loki in a theater, right? There's a TV series that's streaming in theaters ahead of, and like it's a binge.
That's pretty brilliant.
Smart idea. So you basically,
right. So if I don't want to, I just want to see like Boba Fett. I'd love to see. I mean, I have a big ass TV, so it was delightful. But to see, Baby Yoda in IMAX brings joy to my heart.
Yeah.
And I would sit through watching, binging in a theater, and you don't have to pay the subscription fee. You just pay like a ticket price, and you can eventize it and maybe make it a little bit, maybe a fan fest kind of thing, and leverage that medium to
drive
showcase
more. Yeah. Especially in some of the major markets. It's even like the word of mouth opportunity when you get started with that.
Yep.
Sounds like your marketing brains are at work. You and Keith can work on that together. I want to see you guys.
Let's
I'll
do
show
it.
up, you know. Tim, it's always so great to see your smiley face on our show.
Oh, my
So
pleasure,
thanks for
man. My
joining us.
pleasure. Remember, go see Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Okay.
April,
What date? April 22nd, you said?
April 22nd, 422. Get it?
Ah, nice. I like it.
I'm looking forward to our
Nice.
private screening of that. That's all I'm trying to
Yes, we
I
gotta
can't
fly
wait.
to
I'm gonna
Santa
come back and
Monica.
talk about it after you see it. It is
All right, we'll do it.
delightful. It is delightful.
And then
Okay.
make sure you pay attention to next week's episode, Tim, because your friend Kevin's going to be on the show, and we're going to make him
He's
talk
also
about you.
delightful.
So
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.